So in this video, we're talking about whether or not cold email is illegal. Basically, whether or not it's compliant with the regulations such as GDPR and CAN spam. And just to get the answer out really, really quickly for you guys, it is 100% legal. It's 100% a legitimate way to get clients like clockwork. In fact, it's one of the #1 ways I get clients, and it has the best return on investment because you could invest in advertising and funnels and all that kind of stuff, but on purely return on investment, cold email is by far the best return on investment you can make, and therefore it's not something that you should be scared of. Just follow along in this video, which I'm going to go over now, exactly how you can stay above the board or compliant with these regulations. And there are certain things you have to be cautious about, so it's a very, very understandable thing to be worried about. But follow along this video. I'm going to go over step by step how you can be 100% compliant. In the meantime, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button. I'm bringing out videos like this every single week. So the first thing is GDPR was never designed to make cold emailing, B2B cold email, illegal. It's been designed actually for basically regulations around data handling, and especially personal data handling. There's a lot of sensitivity around data at the moment. That's rightfully so, but basically that's what it's all about. It's making sure companies handle your data properly. It's not about making cold email illegal. And if you follow the 4 steps that I'm going to go through right now, then you're going to be completely above the board, and B2B cold email is going to be completely compliant. So the first point kind of runs through all the points in a way, but you need to be targeting relevant people. And to be honest with you, if you're not targeting relevant people and they receive an email from you and they're surprised why they would receive an email from whatever you're talking about, then your conversion rates are going to be totally crap anyway. And there's no point, we're not trying to send out millions of emails every single day and hoping that we get a really low conversion rate. Some of them do convert. It's quite the opposite these days. And what I would always suggest anyway in the old days is to find highly targeted prospects, send way fewer emails. We're talking about 50 emails a day to highly relevant individuals who might react positively to what you are selling or what your service is. So for example, I'm a LinkedIn ad specialist. I'm not going to send out emails to lawyers or someone who I don't think is going to be very successful on LinkedIn ads. Lawyers could be potentially, but for example, I'm not going to send out emails to individuals' personal email addresses. It just doesn't make any sense. I'm going to send out to B2B software companies because that's exactly my ICP, my ideal client profile. So if I'm just sending out emails, cold emails, something like 50 to 70 a day to my ICP, to people who might actually benefit from my service, they're not going to be surprised to receive an email saying, hey, I do LinkedIn ads. It's actually a really good growth initiative. Is this something you'd be interested in? It's a simple email. I'm not manipulating, or like, these people should be expecting an email like this. It's an email to help them grow their business. So they might not be interested. They might be like, Phil, I don't believe LinkedIn ads work. Or they might be like, look, we don't want to do LinkedIn ads. We don't have the budget at the moment. That's totally legit. That's totally fine. And some of these people will come back with that. But whenever I send out my email campaigns, I get very, very few people replying in a negative way. You will always get some people. That's just the nature of outbound, just because people are, some people are impatient. They don't want to be receiving an email from anyone ever, and they're just a grumpy, person or having a grumpy day. So that's totally fine. You do get bad replies occasionally, but generally speaking, the majority of my replies are very polite, and they're like, thanks for reaching out. It's not quite for me right now. So that's what we're trying to aim. And that's the point #1, send emails just to relevant individuals. And that goes beyond, just being a good human being or being compliant with the regulations. It goes to actually just having really higher conversion rate and not wasting your time with all the fluff. So work out what your ICP is, your ideal client profile, and get really high conversion rates. Give them a messaging that makes sense to them, and make sure when they receive that email, it's not a surprise, like where they're wondering, why are they receiving this email? It should never be a surprise. And that's point #1. You need to be sending emails just to relevant people who might have a keen and genuine interest in the service or product you're selling. So the second point in GDPR is that you have to have a legitimate interest to reach out to these prospects. And what that means is that you have to have a legitimate reason. You can't just be, and this goes back to point #1, your legitimate reason is to ask them whether or not your service is something they'll be interested in. And it's quite a flexible part of GDPR. So there are numerous different reasons where like legitimate interest that could work for you. So I wouldn't worry about this part of GDPR too much. But basically it goes to point number one. Just send emails to relevant people, send less emails rather than more, and have higher conversion rates. It's just the same point basically as point number one. Point number three is that you need to make it easy for people to unsubscribe. So there are a couple ways you can do this. One is just having an opt-out link at the bottom of the page. So just really easy for people to opt out of the emails. Or you can write, for example, in the email, just, something like, if you don't want to receive these emails, just let me know and I won't ever send you an email ever again. But generally speaking, I don't even do either one of those. And the reason is that, again, I'm just a normal, genuine person. I'm not trying to annoy people with millions of messages. I'm doing one email plus 3 follow-ups, something like this. And the second they reply, because I'm using an automation tool such as woodpecker.co or Lamlist or one of these tools, the second someone replies either saying I'm not interested, they get taken out automatically from the follow-up sequence. Or if they just, either way, if they're saying they're not interested, then your duty as part of this point is to make sure you remove them from your list, that you don't send them any more emails after that, and you delete all their data. So point number 4 is that you need to keep your data very secure. You can't have any data breaches. You can't be just sending this data out via emails to all your colleagues or something like this. So you've got to keep your data secure. Also, don't keep the data for longer than you need it. And this is a really important part. So for example, if we collect a bunch of data about, say, B2B SaaS founders, and we have a list of 2,000 people that we're going to reach out to, once we've reached out to them, once we've sent the follow-up emails, once we're done, we need to delete their data. We can't just be storing lists and lists of data. So this is a really important factor. Be secure with the data and delete it the second you're done with it. So now that we know how to be compliant, let's just go through the email process quickly to make sure that we're doing everything above the board and like good human beings. Just to quickly pause, if you're getting value from this, definitely hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a comment. It really helps me. So now when you're writing the email, there's a few points to take into consideration. The first one is, let's just go through each one by one. The first thing they're going to see is the subject line. And I have videos about subject lines. I have videos about how to write cold email. Definitely subscribe because you can check those videos out. I'm going to be releasing a lot more in the next coming weeks. But the first thing is subject line is don't make it too, you want to make it like slightly clickbait, but you don't want to make it too clickbait. And the way, like if you make it too spammy or too much clickbait and then they click on the email and then it's not what they expected, they're just going to be pissed off anyway. Like beyond compliance with regulations, you don't want to do that anyway. If you get someone to click because you've manipulated them to click and then they click and the email's got nothing to do with the subject line, that you're not going to get a good response rate. Your response rate might be high, but it'll be negative. The next part is the email copy. Just be straight to the point. Again, don't try to write huge long letters explaining everything. Just get to the point, tell them what it is you want, tell them why you're reaching out, and that's as simple as that. The next point is don't use too many links in your emails because it can get flagged as spam a lot more easily. There are certain filters that the Google and Google G Suite and Outlook have where they will define something as spam based on certain factors, and one of them is excessive use of links. So just be careful about that. Some people say don't use any links at all. I think having like 1 link or 2 links, maybe you want to put a link to your calendar, maybe you want to put a link to your website, that's okay, but don't have excessive links because that will be more highly likely that you'll get flagged as spam. My final point is the more personalization you put in the email, the more compliant you're going to be because it's very personal. You're writing it, you're not automating too much, but also the better reply rates you're going to get. So, in the balance of hyper personalization to full automation, on the automation one, you do 0 personalization. And you're just sending out thousands of emails. On the other scale, you're being hyper personalized and you're writing emails individually, which takes a lot of time. So we should be somewhere closer to the personalization stage or section, but not all the way. So we're using automation tools to send up the follow-ups and all that kind of stuff. And another thing we're doing is segmenting and putting our prospects into buckets so we can then send out, say, okay, we've got a list here with 500 prospects. We got them from, all of those people are using LinkedIn ads, because I've used like a tech finder to see, okay, I found all these prospects which are using LinkedIn ads, or they have a Facebook pixel, and I put them in that bucket. And my personalization is, hey, I noticed you are using LinkedIn ads. It's a little bit personalized, and we're putting the prospects into buckets. So rather than having a list of 4,000 SaaS founders, we've segmented them into different buckets where we can add some personalization, and that's kind of where we want to be. And that's more compliant, because then the emails are going to be more relevant, which goes back to point number one, that it's going to be more relevant to them, and they're going to have a better experience when they see the email, because it shows that you've put some kind of effort into understanding who they are and whether or not you can help them. So now that we know that we can be compliant with cold email, I would recommend cold email as the first growth initiative you use before paid media or content. Cold email, if you've worked out your ICP and you're really clear on that, and I'm going to bring out a video about this very soon, if you know who your ICP is, your ideal client profile, and you've done all the work and you've got a product to market fit, then the first growth initiative I'd recommend is cold email, because it just works. And if we're compliant and we follow what I've said in this video, cold email is a great way to just get clients fast. It's got the best return on investment, and I can start sending out cold emails today and have appointments and meetings with very relevant people tomorrow. It's just very fast. It's the best growth initiative. It's not as scalable as, say, paid media, which I'd recommend down the line, and which is what I'm an expert in. I'm an expert at paid social, but cold email is something you shouldn't ignore. So if you found that useful, check out some other videos I have, which should be popping up right now, about cold email and some cold email tutorials.